Hey, hey, hey. Happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer. Welcome back to the Duct Tape Studios. Of course, it's time for another edition of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, presented by thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. I am the founder and editor-in-chief. So, welcome. If this is your first visit, kick back, relax. It is not rocket surgery taking place here. We are just, for the most part, talking about tabletop gaming news. Every once in a while, we'll talk a little PC gaming, which I shall be tonight. But all in all, we're just hanging out and talking about what's new in board games and role-playing games, miniatures games, card games, you have it. Of course, if you are a longtime viewer, thank you once again for joining me as well. Tonight is Thursday, January 7th, 2021. This is live stream number 601. Pretty sweet. Kind of cool. Anyway, so also want to point out that if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you do subscribe, don't forget, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when I stream the Dispatch live Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my review of The Shores of Tripoli, which is from Fort Circle Games. And of course, do want to also mention that when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Because this is a live stream, that also means there is chat available on YouTube. It's not on screen. One of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, but I do my best to pay attention to chat. So if you want to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question, a comment, by all means, fire away. I will do my best to respond. Though sometimes chat can zip by pretty quickly. So far, we've got a Gray Day hanging out with us in chat. Clint Gibson has just arrived as well. So tonight is live stream 601. So we are going back to the usual format. Last night, because it was episode 600, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. And I'd bring my best friend, Elliot Miller, on board, who Elliot used to be part of the Gaming Gang. Then he branched out to do his own thing over at voiceofe.com. Although I got to be honest, I don't think he's really done a whole lot over on that website for a while, probably about a year or so. But he's still totally into games. And if you watched last night, I apologize if you are completely bored out of your skull. Some people were having a pretty good time. I know Scott Weigel, who is a friend of ours from high school, who lives out, I believe, in the Portland area. He was hanging out, having a good time. So, it was just something a little different. A little bit different. All right, I see that Jason Zirkle is in chat with us as well. Welcome aboard, Jason. Make yourself at home. Kick up the feet, get comfy, because I'm going to jump on into the news. I've got a good eclectic mix tonight. First off, there's a very interesting looking Kickstarter that is off to a huge start for Thundergryph Games. I've got the dope on Darwin's Journey. When all you can identify in the horizon for many long days is the line that detaches the sea from the sky, the glimpse of a distant shore appearing before you will make you shiver at the understanding that the adventure is about to begin. You find yourself astonished landing on the shore that will be the origin of an extensive exploration through the Galapagos, a magic place of inconceivable beauty and endless biodiversity. There, you'll gather repertoires and expand your knowledge of the natural sciences. Your eyes will learn how to detect the hidden species in the tropical forest, gazing at the countless colors and textures of nature. After inspiring hours spent studying and getting to enlightening conclusions, you'll rest under a sparkling sky, admiring the stunning complexity of the animal realm. Darwin's Journey is a worker placement Euro game in which players recall Charles Darwin's memories of his adventure through the Galapagos Islands, which contributed to the development of his theory of evolution. With the game's innovative worker progression system, each worker will have to study the disciplines that are a prerequisite to perform several actions in the game, such as exploration, correspondence, gathering, and dispatch of what repertoires found on the island to museums in order to contribute to the human knowledge of biology. The game lasts 5 rounds, and thanks to several short and long term objectives, every action you take will grant victory points in different ways. There is it's about a 2-minute Kickstarter video from Thundergryph. So let's take a peek.
I remember the damp breeze of the tropical weather adhering to the skin. Volcanic rocks, heated by the sunbeams, becoming warm nests for crawling vertebrates. I have vivid memories of uncountable species coexisting undisturbed in what I call a little world within itself. We are sailing the Pacific Ocean through the memories of a lifetime, an adventure to the Galapagos, where we are led by curiosity and instinct, observing to understand and through science narrate the story of all species. One-on-one with the islands, we will rest on the shores and reflect to assimilate the essence of our studies. Through water and sand, we will explore the land to find repertoires that museums will preserve for the rest of human existence. By studying the natural sciences, we apply the disciplines learned to our research to get a deeper understanding of the unknown, keeping close contact with the external world through an inspiring correspondence that will ground us after the most incredible discoveries. We merge with it all to understand the deep interconnection between all species and the insoluble bond with each corner of the environment we inhabit. This is the story of my memorable journey.
Darwin's Journey is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around an hour or two. The Kickstarter project is well past the 1,100% funding mark, and it has only been going on for a few days. I think this might be the 3rd day. You can reserve a copy of the base game as well as stretch goals for a $56 pledge, or score the collector's edition for a $67 pledge through January 28th. Expected delivery on Darwin's Journey is November of 2021. This does look pretty interesting. I have to say, it wasn't that long ago that we had a Kickstarter for another Charles Darwin inspired game. Wasn't it about a year, maybe a year and a half ago? It was, I don't recall the company, but it was on the origin of the species. I believe that was the title of the game. And like I said, I don't think that was all that long ago. So this could be rather interesting. Although I have to say, the concept that you're kind of playing memories of Charles Darwin is a little odd. Maybe, maybe I'm not, like reading this right. Because I'm not sure if Thundergryph is an English language company. I don't know if they're like a North American company or not. So this could be a translation. So I think they're out of Europe, if I remember correctly. So Grade A says there are several Darwin games. As I see Flaming Huron has arrived. Yes, one of our chat moderators. Flaming Huron's with us again, as well as Kabuki Kid. Double K's in the house. So we got a good chat going already. So Grade A says Origin of Species. Is that what it's called? Origin of Species? I thought it was on the Origin of Species, just like the actual book, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Is from Artana. I think that's how it's pronounced. Artana Games. I believe they're out of Europe as well. So Kabuki Kid mentions they have the Darwin expansion for Robinson Crusoe. Nice. Robinson Crusoe is an interesting game. I do not own it. Elliot has a copy of it, and I have played it a couple of times now. Granted, it's been quite a while since I was over at his house, but we have played a couple of times, and I find it pretty interesting. If you want to hear probably the funniest moment in all of the history of the podcast that we did, the Gaming Gang podcast, which I think we clocked in over 100 episodes, if I remember right. Maybe close to 200, I think. I think we were at about 180 when we stopped. I might be misremembering it because it's years ago. But if you go and search for Robinson Crusoe on the Gaming Gang website and you check out the news piece that Elliot presented on the show, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever. It made the game sound completely insane. And if you listen to it, you can hear it gets to the point where you can tell both he and I, and we were 1,800 miles apart when we were recording that podcast, were both in tears from laughing. Because it was like, what the hell is this game? What are you talking about? Because I knew nothing about it. It was Elliot doing news piece, so that was kind of funny. All right, so I believe we just had John Vogel pop into chat. Yes, we did. He's late. Damn you, John. Damn you for being late. It's okay. Show up whenever you have a chance to show up. So Kabuki Kid's talking about the Voyage of the Beagle. Strangely enough, wasn't Charles Darwin pretty young when he was on the Beagle? Wasn't he like in his early 20s when he set out? Because the thing that I find interesting is, yes, we do know that it was later in life that he concocted his theory of evolution, right? But for some strange reason, the way it's always presented is almost like Charles Darwin was an older man when he went off on the Beagle. And I don't think that was the case. I think he was pretty young. And it's weird how history is sometimes presented. Kind of strange. All right, let's move on to my next news piece, because arriving later this month from Skybound Games is Pebble Rock Delivery Service. Here's what I know. Pebble Rock Delivery Service is a lightweight pickup and delivery game for gamers and their families. Plan your routes well, manage your cargo carefully, and watch out! A hungry shark and a band of pirates have taken up in these waters and are always looking for unsuspecting delivery boats. Pebble Rock Delivery Service is designed to be an entry-level gateway game, the kind of game you introduce your children to in the hope it sows a seed and a love for board games. It's based on a simple delivery system where you firstly pick a random delivery list. When you just say first, where you first pick a random delivery list, it just sounds more normal than firstly. The plan is to have several lists with different numbers of deliveries on them. This way, parents can choose a deck with a couple of deliveries on them for a short burst game and longer lists for something more time intensive. The players will be given, I should say, a finite amount of rounds to fulfill those deliveries. You then move outwards from the lighthouse, the main hub of the game, to make your deliveries using a simple die roll. The board contains event spaces which trigger event cards, your usual fare of help or hinder cards that can be overcome with objects bought from island shops or given to you for completing objectives. The game comes with a character boat game card, which show your current items, cargo, and also damage. Every piece of cargo delivered increases your speed by 1, and every time you damage your boat, it's decreased by 1. The objective being that delivering goods and looking after your boat make you faster and more efficient and ultimately the first back home after completing your deliveries. The game has scope for co-op, single player, or competitive play with no major changes to the rules. Pebble Rock delivery service is for 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up. Plays in about 30 to 45 minutes. Once again, I really do believe you can kind of decide, you can tweak the gameplay, game length, I guess, in a lot of ways. It's going to carry an MSRP of $25 when it starts arriving in stores on January 27th. For those of you out there who have, smaller kids or are even looking for something super light to maybe introduce, new players to our brand of board games, right? Wait, I would think that most people who ever catch this show are not like, oh yeah, so all these games are kind of like, Monopoly and Game of Life and Risk and it's like Stratego. It's like, no, no, it's not. So Kabuki Kid says that they're pretty sure that Charles Darwin was pretty young. Grade A says, yes, he set out when he was in his 20s. Cool. I thought the artwork on this looked kind of interesting. It's got little like animal captains, and it almost looks like one of them is like named Elvis, and it might be like an ocelot, like Elvis the ocelot. I don't know. I thought this looked kind of cute for the kids. I throw the kids a bone every once in a while on the children's kind of focused games. Speaking of other games, it's Thursday, so we know it's time for yet another free PC game from the Epic Game Store. And today's release is Crying Suns, which is from Humble Games and Alt Shift Games. Here's the details. Crying Suns is a tactical roguelite that puts you in the role of a space fleet commander as you explore a mysteriously fallen empire. In this story, rich experience inspired by Dune and Foundation, each successful run will uncover the truth about the empire and yourself as well. Space exploration in a procedurally generated universe also features tactical fights between battleships and their squadron fleets. There are more than 300 possible story events. There's a deep and dramatic storyline structured in 6 chapters and dark and disturbing atmosphere inspired by the creator's favorite science fiction universes, Foundation, Dune, as well as Battlestar Galactica. The story is the epic journey of a clone. After 700 years of peace and prosperity, the Galactic Empire has suddenly been shattered into pieces. The Omnis, godlike machines which did everything for their human masters, have mysteriously shut down, and humankind, having long since lost the ability to survive on its own, is dangerously close to extinction. But somewhere in the far galaxy is Gehenna, a planet of ice and rock and a top secret facility that is the pinnacle of Imperial tech and also humanity's last chance. You are a clone of Admiral Ilias Idaho, a weapon fashioned from flesh, the best Imperial Admiral ever to battle in the stars, and you have been awoken on this planet by its strange and darkly humorous guardian, Caliban, the last functional Omni to exist. Your mission? Skillfully command a battleship through the Empire's now chaotic, violent clusters, where one wrong move could be your last, as you try to reactivate the Omnis and save the future of all humankind. But you must leave Gehenna now, for time has almost run out. Let's take a quick peek at the Crying Suns launch trailer. It's about a minute and a half, 2 minutes long, so you'll get a better idea of the gameplay. Crying Suns is absolutely free over at the Epic Game Store until 10 a.m. Central Time, January 14th. Nice. And yes, I did realize once that video was playing, it was not scaled correctly. Oh, sorry. It was scaled correctly earlier. I have no idea why suddenly it was blown up. And all you were seeing was like a little corner. And the funny thing is, I wasn't really paying attention to the screen for about a minute and a half. And I glanced up and I'm like, what's up with the video? I was like, it's almost over. The hell with it. But I had heard this is pretty good. I have not played it. Once again, I have pointed out in the past that I am not a huge fan of the 16-bit, 8-bit graphic, renaissance, mainly because I had to live through it the first time when that was cutting edge. So, I don't know, but this is supposed to be a very cool roguelite. I always thought it was roguelike, not roguelite, because these games are like inspired by the game Rogue. So that's why I thought they were known as roguelikes, not roguelites. Then again, it might be two terms that are used. I don't know. I have no clue. All right, so there is some discussion going on about a potential Dragonlance setting book coming for D&D. We will talk about that once I finish up the news. And I will share my thoughts about that as well. So, Kabuki Kid says roguelike is the only term that she knows. Yeah, that's what's weird. But this says, their sell sheet info says roguelite. And I'm like, okay. All righty. So Flaming Heron says both are both a thing. Okay, that's cool. Cool deal. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some role-playing game news. And if you have absolutely no interest in Pathfinder or Starfinder, now's probably time to go get yourself a drink, take the dog for a walk, make yourself a sandwich. Although I have to admit, I don't have as much news as normally. I went with the major releases because there actually is tons of Pathfinder and Starfinder releases this month, but a lot of it is like their organized play and things like that, which now you can get because stores are closed. So you can actually get the PDFs of them. Anyway, moving right along, let's jump on in because Paizo Inc. has plenty of role-playing game goodness coming for Pathfinder and Starfinder in 2021 or 2021. Still haven't decided which way I want to say it yet. Here are the major releases for January. First off, we've got the Pathfinder Adventure Path number 163, Ruins of Gauntlet. It's part 1 of 3 for the Abomination Vaults. Enter the Mega Dungeon. When the mysterious Gauntlet, an eerie landlocked lighthouse, glows with baleful light, the people of Atari know something terrible is beginning. The town's newest heroes must venture into the ruins around the lighthouse and delve the dungeon levels far beneath it to discover the evil the Gauntlet heralds. Hideous monsters, deadly traps, and mysterious ghosts all await the heroes who dare to enter the sprawling mega dungeon called the Abomination Vaults. Ruins of Gauntlet is a Pathfinder adventure for 4 first-level characters. This adventure begins the Abomination Vaults Adventure Path, a 3-part monthly campaign in which the heroes explore a sprawling mega dungeon to stop an ancient evil from renewing her monstrous vengeance. This adventure also includes an extensive gazetteer of the town of Atari, the hero's home base, as well as new monsters, new rules, and new artifacts, including the dread Gauntlet itself. Each monthly full-color softcover Pathfinder Adventure Path, say that 5 times fast, volume contains an in-depth adventure scenario, stats for several new monsters, and support articles meant to give game masters additional material to expand their campaign. Pathfinder Adventure Path volumes use the open game license and work with both the Pathfinder RPG and the world's oldest fantasy role-playing game. This softcover is going to carry an MSRP of $24.99. You'll be able to grab the PDF for $17.99. Curious, and I will continue on with some other items as well. Is this the first time that we've seen a 3-part Pathfinder Adventure Path? I have to admit, I don't know a lot about first edition Pathfinder, so it is very possible there were lots of 3-parters. I thought they usually go 6. Other question I've got, is this the first mega dungeon that Paizo has done for Pathfinder? I don't know. Kabuki Kid says the town is called Atari. It's Otari. Atari. Now, I haven't been saying it like Otari. I just say Atari. Like Ohio. I know it's Ohio. I'm joking. All right, moving right along. We also have the Pathfinder Spell Cards Advanced Player's Guide. Expand the array of magic at your fingertips with Pathfinder Spell Cards Advanced Player's Guide. This must-have accessory for spellcasting characters contains more than 150 spell reference cards, containing the spells from every tradition and all focus spells from the Pathfinder Adventure Player's Guide in one place, giving you immediate access to key game details without flipping pages. Players can easily arrange and plan their spells within moments, and a quick scan of the cards presents a caster's tactical options at a glance. The possibilities are endless, but Pathfinder Spell Cards lets you master the mysteries of magic. This box set's going to carry an MSRP of $24.99. You could get the cards in PDF for $17.99. Then the final major Pathfinder release is the Flipmat City Sites Multi-Pack. Whether your players are just arriving in town, heading out for some shopping, carousing at a local tavern, or fighting for their lives in the back alleys, Pathfinder Flipmat City Sites Multi-Pack has you covered. This set's 4 sides include a different city location on each side where mayhem and trouble is likely to break out. Whether you need a bustling marketplace, a popular tavern, a twisting tangle of alleys in the worst part of town, or a busy urban waterfront, you'll find a suitable map in this pack. This set includes 2 flip mats, each measuring 24 inches by 30 inches unfolded and 8 by 10 folded. A flip mat's coated surface can handle any dry erase, wet erase, or even permanent marker. Usable by experienced GMs and novices alike, Pathfinder flip mats fit perfectly into any game master's arsenal. There is a theme here as far as pricing so far, because the physical release of this will carry an MSRP of $24.99, or you can get the PDF for $17.99. So as far as the Starfinder releases, we've got Starfinder Adventure Path number 36, Professional Courtesy, Part 3 of Fly Free or Die. A favor for their best friend and ally brings the player characters to the ocean planet of Entha, where the company is terraforming into a paradise for rich dilettantes. The churning water world is home to many mysteries, including a fantastic underwater realm of powerful magic. Now the crew must save an underwater rig from destruction, rescue the workers there, and somehow win the friendship of a strange alien species. But the company manager on Entha is a dragon. She's got a team of aquatic alien troubleshooters, and the PCs are the trouble that needs to be shot. Professional Courtesy is a Starfinder adventure for 4 5th-level characters. This adventure continues the Fly Free or Die adventure path, a 6-part monthly campaign in which the players take on the role of a merchant crew with an experimental starship trying to get rich, escape interplanetary assassins, and outwit their rivals. Spoilers! This volume also details the aquatic world of Entha and its many dangerous and intelligent inhabitants, a well-armed company warship, gear and character options for underwater adventures, and a series of side jobs, short mini-adventures the GM can insert into the campaign at any time. Each monthly full-color softcover Starfinder Adventure Path volume contains a new installment of a series of interconnected science fantasy quests that together create a fully developed plot of sweeping scale and epic challenges. Each 64-page volume of the Starfinder Adventure Path also contains in-depth articles that detail and expand the Starfinder campaign setting and provide new rules, a host of exciting new monsters and alien races, a new planet to explore, and starship to pilot, and more. This softcover is going to carry an MSRP of $22.99. You'll be able to grab the PDF for $15.99. We've also got the Starfinder Pawns Starship Operations Manual Pawn Collection. Buckle up! A vast armada of Starship Pawns blast their way onto your tabletop in the latest Starfinder Pawns collection. The Starfinder Pawns Starship Operations Manual Pawn Collection, man, that's a mouthful, presents more than 100 stunning full-color images of starships, from agile interceptors to enormous dreadnoughts. Printed on sturdy cardstock, each double-sided pawn slots into a 1-inch plastic base from the Starfinder Pawns base assortment, making them easy to mix with traditional metal or plastic miniatures. With so many starship options, the Starfinder Pawn Starship Operations Manual Pawn Collection ensures you're set to run simple duels, fast armada clashes, and everything in between. The Starfinder Starship Operations Manual Pawn Collection includes pawns suitable for starships ranging from racing ships to ultranauts, as well as starship fleets. All starship pawns use medium bases, from the tiniest fighter to the largest warship. The physical collection is going to carry an MSRP of $24.99. You'll be able to get the PDF for $17.99. And finally, we've got the Starfinder Flip Mat Planetary Atmosphere. Whether the heroes are landing their starship to explore a newly discovered world or dogfighting in the skies and individual starfighters, Paizo's latest Starfinder Flip Mat has you covered. This line of gaming maps provides ready-to-use science fantasy set pieces for the busy game master. Featuring a hex grid for Starfinder's unique starship combat system, this extra-large double-sided map comes with 2 different backgrounds: the thick clouds of a gas giant and a high-altitude view of a terrestrial world's topography, to let you craft epic atmospheric starship battles and fire your players' imaginations. Don't waste time sketching while you could be playing. With Starfinder Flip Mat Planetary Atmosphere, you'll be ready the next time your players take their starship planet side. There is a special coating on each flip mat which allows you to use wet erase, dry erase, and permanent markers with ease. Removing permanent ink is easy. Simply trace over any permanent mark with a dry erase marker, wait 10 seconds, then wipe off both marks with a dry cloth or paper towel. This flip mat will carry an MSRP of $19.99, or you can get the PDF, where there's a big difference in price here. You can get the PDF for $10.49. So all of these are going to be arriving later this month. I believe it is also the week of, I think like the 27th is when these will arrive. So I know there has been a lot of chat zipping on past here. A lot of people talking about various different, I think I could have swore, I thought I saw a Kabuki Kid commented something about that they run kind of a mishmash fantasy role-playing game, which is part D&D, part like homebrew and stuff like that. All right, so... Okay, so Kevin Smith is in chat with us. Good to see you, Kevin. So it turns out, yes, there were some 3-part adventure paths for second edition? See, I thought this was the first one. But then again, it's kind of weird. I have a nice relationship with Paizo, and I try, they'll send stuff, and I try to get the reviews out there, but it's real piecemeal. So I'll get like the first 3 parts of a 6-part adventure path, and then I don't see it again. I don't get anything from the rest of that adventure path to review. So I'll get books here, I'll get books there, and then I'll go months without anything. So it's kind of like, I don't break my neck to get the Pathfinder reviews out there, because it's sort of like, well, am I going to get the follow-up adventure to this, or am I going to look just like a doofus, like, hey, here's the first part of this adventure path. Here's my video review. And then months later, people are like, well, whatever happened to the rest of this adventure path? I don't know. I mean, there's been times I've actually gotten like the conclusion of an adventure path. I'm like, I don't have any idea what happened before that. All right, so there is some discussion about some of the mega dungeons. Rapanathuk. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. I know that's available for Pathfinder 5e. It's actually Pathfinder First Edition is what it's available for. Swords and Wizardry is another one. I've seen the PDFs for Rapanathuk, or however you want to pronounce it. But yes, physically it's pretty expensive. So Kevin R. Smith says, Paizo releases tons of stuff. Don't know if they have enough copies of everything to give to all the reviewers. I completely get that. I completely understand that. It is just weird. You know, if they want to like set something aside and say, okay, well, we're going to have Jeff review XYZ for Starfinder, this adventure path. And then the next adventure path, I don't review anything. That'd be okay. I don't have a problem with that. It just seems very strange. So, and I do know I believe they've got one person working PR, and I'm sure he's overwhelmed. So Kevin R. Smith is saying, I remember at Virtual Cons last year, they were talking about doing 3-part adventure paths as an experiment. Aha. All right, cool deal. All right, I got one last news piece. Now available in PDF from my friends over at Cubicle 7 Entertainment is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Shrines of Sigmar. The old world is steeped in staunch spiritual beliefs, some of which have sparked battles and incited wars. Though they may differ in importance and prominence, all ensure reverence and honor. Shrines of Sigmar offers a selection of unique and mysterious shrines from around the Empire. They're perfect for dropping into an ongoing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay campaign, or can be used to kickstart an exciting new adventure. Each one is packed with color and detail, laced with intrigue, and come with a table of unique blessings for those few worthy of Sigmar's favor. While a multitude of gods, old and new, are worshipped across the Empire, none can claim a greater prominence than Sigmar. As a man, Sigmar founded the Empire, and as a god, he cemented his presence at every level of society. He is not a subtle faith. I should say, his is not a subtle faith. His priests preach his word from fine temples and modest shrines, hammer held in a familiar grip, both a symbol of their faith and a practical weapon to be wielded against the Empire's enemies. While most of these shrines are just what they seem, a decorative and impressive way to honor Sigmar, a select few hold incredible and extraordinary secrets. Shrines of Sigmar includes the Steinplatz Shrine, which houses a reliquary containing the severed head of Grand Theogonist Helmgart. I know, I'm going to mispronounce all of these names and stuff. So suffused with the spiritual faith of its owner that even now the fingernails continue to grow. The Shrine of Ulthak, a follower of Sigmar, while both still lived, Ulthak was raised above all others by Sigmar himself after he gave his life in defense of the Empire. Or so the priests of the lower Bogan Valley believe. The Hammers stand. Deep in the forest of the Empire, a solitary, devoted follower of Sigmar spends her days high atop a wooden pillar, her humble life of suffering devoted to the worship of Sigmar. And then there's the abandoned shrine of Lohengrin. Deep in the West Lofholtz woods are the ruins of Lohengrin, a village long abandoned to the forest. Centuries ago, the villagers took up arms and marched to join the vampire wars. None returned. And there's the Sumpfdorf Shrine, a fine if somewhat uninspired shrine to Sigmar, favored by those traveling north from Vielbach towards Altdorf, the true devotees of the Sumpfdorf Shrine. See in Sigmar a truth that few would dare even to speak aloud. This 15-page PDF is available over at DriveThruRPG for $3.99. And of course, speaking of DriveThruRPG, of course, the Gaming Gang and thus the Dispatch are affiliated with the One Bookshelf websites. So if you are going to go visit DriveThruRPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our ads, which right now we're running a tower ad as opposed to our usual banner ad. And if you do so, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters, and there aren't a whole lot of quarters, but we do get a quarter from time to time, really do add up and help keep the Gaming Gang website around. And I know there are a lot of people out there who actually do click on our ads before they visit DriveThruRPG, and it is really, really appreciated. It truly is. All right, so that is it for tonight's news. Let's see what we've got cooking here in chat. So Jason Circle says, I didn't know Pathfinder had a second edition until I started watching D20 stuff. Is it better than first? I have reviewed the core book. I have reviewed some stuff for second edition Pathfinder. I'll be the first to admit I had very, very little exposure to first edition Pathfinder. So can't tell you if it's better. I like it. I think it's pretty cool. I always kind of try to throw out a little disclaimer about any role-playing game that I do a review for, and that is I do not think any role-playing game out there that I've ever encountered is perfect, and I throw stuff out all the time. So how I like to sum things up as far as Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and there are people who hate it. There's people who hate everything, you know. If you want, there you go. Kevin's saying, yeah, there's a lot of crunch. If you want a crunchier system than 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. If you want more player character options, which that is a huge selling point for Pathfinder, then you might want to take a look at Pathfinder 2nd edition. If you are looking for a system that you have a constant flow of adventures coming out for, then you probably want to take a look at 2nd edition Pathfinder as well, because there at least one adventure comes out every month. Now, granted, they tend to be part of an adventure path, which may not float your boat, but there is tons of content that's constantly coming out. As Kevin mentions, it says a little like 5e with more customization and more than just one level of proficiency. Yes. And if you like bestiaries, then by all means, Pathfinder is your game, because they've got, I think they're already on, I think they're getting ready to release Bestiary 4. I think it's the 4th one coming out. So I think it's pretty cool. I like it. I personally, I don't run it, but I tend to like streamlined games. Speaking of role-playing games, I will have a review. I just got it. I purchased Basic Fantasy. So I am going to be reviewing the core book as well as it's the bestiary. I forget what they are calling it, but it is their bestiary. So I will be reviewing those in the near future. Like I said, I just got it today. So also, speaking of reviews, tune in tomorrow, probably tomorrow night, because I will have my review of Robotech Invid Invasion from Solar Flare Games. So that is coming. I am going to try to get a review done and have it posted over the weekend. Can't guarantee that. But as I've pointed out before, I am, for the foreseeable future in 2021, planning on releasing reviews on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I think things will be a little easier, a little smoother if I'm releasing on a schedule. Because for a while it was like, okay, every day I felt like, oh, I gotta get a review out. Flaming Heron's asking when the Robotech license is ending. I gotta be honest, I think it was renegotiated. I think Harmony Gold renegotiated another contract. So, because it should have ended, I think it was supposed to end last summer. But I am seeing, I think there's other Robotech releases. I don't necessarily know if they're gaming, but I think I have seen some Robotech stuff that is on the horizon. So, but yes, so Flaming Heron says, oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, because it was running out. It was going to end. And from what I kept seeing, it seems like nobody was really interested, at least the people who had made the licenses from the 3 different animes that make up Robotech didn't seem to have any real interest in continuing on. I guess they changed their minds. So Jason says, Jeff, your time in this is greatly appreciated. Helps me keep my sanity as well. All right, so before we wrap up, so let's talk about the rumor floating around that there is going to be a new Dungeons and Dragons book that is going to be released in March. And the main source, as far as I understand, so I haven't posted anything on the website because I don't want to be the idiot who's wrong. I don't want to be the bleeding cool of tabletop gaming out there. It's always like, oh yeah, yeah, this is it. Oh yeah. And then it's like absolutely not correct. We won't even get into bleeding cool. So, so Great A says Basic Fantasy has monsters in the main book. Yes, but they also have a separate book that is an additional bestiary. There are a few that they do offer as physical books. Because, and we'll wrap this up in a second. Yes, Basic Fantasy, the role playing game. But with Basic Fantasy, you can get the core book, which I think, like I said, it just came today. Yes, Field Guide of Creatures Malevolent and Benign. That is the other bestiary. But the core book is, I think it's like 180 pages, $5. This bestiary, I think it was $3 and some cents. $3 and some cents for, I got the adventure anthology. I got a copy of the bestiary and the core book to give to Elliot Miller, who was just on last night. Just got to see my best friend. It's his birthday in February. So I know he even mentioned, if you watched last night's show, he was talking about how he had started running 5e for his kids. And when he's talking about his kids are like in their 30s. And he has some stepkids, although they're really not stepkids. I mean, he adopted them, so I guess they are like his kids. They're a little bit younger, but not by much. They're also in their 20s. So he's been running D&D for them. He's also running a My Hero Academia game, which I could have swore, I think he said he was using Mutants and Masterminds as a rule set, which I'm kind of surprised. I'm sort of surprised he's using that rule set. And he's running that for his daughter and her friends. And his youngest daughter is, I think she's 13 now. So I thought, you know what? I'll send him to Basic Fantasy because it's kind of a mix of like 5e and 3.5 and AD&D. I thought he might get a kick out of it. All right. Anyway, so let's go back and we'll talk about this supposed Dragonlance book. I think that's what it is because of the settlement with Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. I think what Wizards of the Coast decided on was to just for them to drop their lawsuit because it was dismissed. For them to not pursue it, I think Wizards agreed to put together a supplement, which I think was something that they were already working on anyway, alongside their books that they were supposedly working on. Wasn't a trilogy of new novels? So obviously enough, there would have been game material that they were working on as well, because they sure weren't going to let that just be like, yeah, well, okay, so there's some Dragonlance novels for you. I don't know. Personally, I don't care. I got to be honest. I have absolutely no interest in Dragonlance. I didn't read the novels. I had friends who were like, oh, wow, yeah, these are really good. But I had also heard that the Dungeons and Dragons releases for Dragonlance, like the first major adventure was supposed to be really good. And then it just kind of, because of the big meta plot, the player characters were sort of like, yeah, you're just kind of along for the ride here, which is the worst because everybody knows, anybody who's halfway decent at running a role-playing game knows that the role-playing game has to revolve around the characters, the players, their characters. It has to be based on them. They have to be the stars of the movie. That doesn't mean every once in a while you can't have a walk-on from an important NPC, but you can't have it where it's like, well, everything the player characters do really doesn't affect the overall story. The overall story is still going to unfold the way it unfolds. No thanks. So I do think the novels were much more popular than the actual gaming materials that came out. So Kevin R. Smith says Dragonlance has that whole problem of what else do you do besides replay the story of the novels? Yeah, there you go. There you go. Jason says loved the novels until they started messing with multiple timelines. Don't know. A Grade A is mentioning that his copy of Basic Fantasy is 150 pages, but it's also 15 years old. Yeah, I got the third edition, and I think third edition's been out for, I don't know, what, 5 years? Something like that. But yes, it is community driven. It is dirt cheap. You can basically buy it for the cost of production is really what it is. And I had seen the PDF. I had read the PDF before. And that kind of falls into the whole category of people are like, oh, role-playing games are too expensive. Yeah, okay. I'll give you that on some levels. If you look at how much entertainment you can get from a role-playing game, I mean, we're talking pennies, right? Pennies per hour of entertainment, probably the best value you can get if you're actually playing the game that you purchased. But when people tell me, oh, yeah, that role-playing, the hobby is just too expensive, I completely disagree. Because there is loads of free material out there that you can get your hands on. Just about every old school Renaissance retro clone is available as a free PDF. Now, granted, it might not have the art, dazzling artwork and things like that. I mean, there are some that have cool artwork and the PDFs are still free. There are loads of cheap or basically free adventures out there as well. So all you got to do, you don't even really need to own dice. If you got a smartphone, you got tons of free dice apps. Me personally, I like rolling dice. A dice app is never going to replace rolling dice. Being like, shit. Damn it. Fumble. Crap. So, but anyway, yeah, I think it is a Dragonlance setting book that's going to come out. Could I be wrong? Sure, of course. Of course I could be wrong. But I think that's it. And I think you will have quite a few people upset that it's Dragonlance and it's not Dark Sun or Spelljammer. It's like, like usual, there will be people who are upset. But at least, one thing I will say in Wizards of the Coast's corner, I don't want to say in their defense because it's not, not defending them from anything. It is nice to see that they are, if it does turn out to be Dragonlance, it's nice to know that they are bringing back a D&D setting. That it's not a Critical Role book, something like that, which once again, I have nothing against Critical Role, but there are a lot of people out there, they want to see their favorite settings for Dungeons and Dragons, get the 5e treatment, and I get it. I will go out on a limb though and say I will predict that if it is a Dragonlance book, that it is going to not be the best put together book that we've ever seen as the setting book for 5e. Just got a feeling that it's going to feel rushed. Just off the top of my head. Kabuki Kid says, when is Greyhawk coming back? Never. Although there has been mention of Greyhawk in 5e releases. But yeah, I don't think Greyhawk's ever going to see a 5e release. I got to be honest, I think Greyhawk kind of comes across as just very vanilla fantasy for most people. But the whole point is, and Gary Gygax was a huge proponent of this, and Greyhawk was his setting. Just, create your own thing. if you want Greyhawk to be kind of a science fantasy world, go ahead. So, let's see. Kevin says it was kind of odd they released a Saltmarsh book without a Greyhawk supplement. Well, they pretty much said, hey, you can put it wherever you want. Wherever you want. So Flaming Heron says his dice hate him. They always give him ones. I had to look around the camera because I couldn't see all the chat message. It was he always gives him ones and his friends 20s. Anyway, cool. Kevin says they watched a stream where somebody was talking about just getting rid of the whole Dragonlance story. just do the dungeons. Once again, that's perfectly fine. One of these days, maybe I'll go off on a tangent about how there's just far too much pressure. I guess maybe that's the word I'll use on game masters out there that they have to run role-playing games the way they're presented in the book. And that's why we see all these ridiculous videos that pull in like 100,000 views. It's like 10 secrets of great game masters. And it's like, or it's always DMs. It's always dungeon masters because they're always like, they're looking to get the D&D eyes on it, you know? And it's just stuff that we've talked about for decades. Like, it's like none of this is a secret. And then on the other hand, it's like, oh, well, we're going to walk you through the official way to play Dungeons and Dragons. Unless you're running a tournament game, who cares? Run it the way you want. That's why if you watched the show last night, Elliot was talking about one of it. And this is no joke. One of his like greatest gaming experiences in his life was me running Massive Nyarlathotep. And as I said last night, all the big things that he remembers, and he was like, if you watched, he was like, said, did you tell him about the truck story? He had gone to get some more wine or whatever. And I said, no. None of that stuff was in the adventure. None of the stuff that he remembers being like, oh my God, that was awesome, was in Massive Nyarlathotep. And that's how you do it. That's how you run your role-playing games. Now, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, they played Massive Nyarlathotep. It was not, I just made everything up. But it just was a lot different than it just, point A, point B, point C, and so on. So Jason says, best games are alt rules. Yeah, make up your own stuff. I say it all the time. When I do role-playing game reviews, I'll be like, I don't think I'd run this as written because I'm not too keen on this or keen on that. So Kabuki Kid says, talking about Empire of the Petal Throne, which was a hacked setting for original D&D. Yes. Mars Barker. I gotta be honest, I have really never read any Empire of the Petal Throne. And the funny thing is, I always kind of mix it up with Sky Realms of Jorn. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Because I'll never forget the hobby shop that I got some of my D&D stuff way back in the day when I wasn't even high school yet. I remember they had the box set of Sky Realms of Jorn, and it had like a really wild kind of science fantasy cover to it with some like alienish creatures and stuff. And I was like, that looks kind of interesting. But I didn't pick it up because it was like, I'm like 11 years old, 12 years old. I've only got so much of an allowance I could spend. Okay, so Flaming Heron says that they got into maybe Empire of the Petal Throne in later high school years and early 20s. There's some discussion about Judges Guild. Here's the funny thing. when I first ran across Judges Guild stuff, it always to me felt like it was cheap. Now, cost wise, it wasn't necessarily cheap, but production wise, not that looking at old AD&D modules or anything, be like, wow, look at this production quality. Although the artwork's pretty decent. There was just something about Judges Guild that just always just came across as because it was just on this kind of cheap paper. I don't want to say it was pulp paper, but kind of close to pulp paper. But there are a lot of people who have some serious love for the old Judges Guild stuff. And I'm kind of curious. I am kind of curious. I know they're, yes, the City State of the Invisible Overlord. I own that. I did pick that up. But, what is it? The Teagle. Isn't it Teagle? House of Teagle or whatever that's really well remembered. There's also, I think, and once again, gotta remember, I was not huge into Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, as we talked about last night, when we were joining in our freshman year, we were joining a game club. We joined the club that wasn't only about D&D. Yes, Teagle Manor. Thank you, everybody. So Great A says they avoided Judges Guild. Yeah, like, I don't know. I remember City State was kind of cool, but it was also sort of like, eh. But I know that I might be wrong. I'm sure in chat or somebody in comment section is going to correct me on this. But I could have swore, wasn't Judges Guild the first company to actually release something for Dungeons and Dragons, which was kind of like a wilderness setting, like wilderness rules? I don't necessarily want to say hex crawl, but I think it was kind of hex crawl. I don't know. I know there are a lot of people out there who still utilize what are they, Dungeon Master reference sheets or something like that. I think that's pretty popular too. Kabuki Kid says Dark Tower from Judges Guild is a classic. I know what the artwork looks like. Isn't the artwork for Dark Tower? It's almost like an entrance to like a temple or something, and it's like the pillars. And I want to say the pillars are like duck statues. Now I might be way off on that. Maybe I'm thinking of Duck Tower. Kabuki Kid says, yes, Judges Guild did a lot of firsts for D&D. Yes, the Wilderlands. Thank you, Kevin. That is exactly what I'm thinking. Yes, it's the surroundings for the city-state. Ref ready sheets. Yes, that is exactly what I'm thinking about as well. So, all right. So, like I said, I would love to look at some Judges Guild stuff, and I think a lot of it's available in PDF nowadays, because God knows I would not be looking to buy it on a secondary market, because it's bad enough trying to get old edition core rule books and stuff like that in good shape. Lots of luck getting those in good shape at a like relatively decent price. All right, so that is pretty much it for tonight's show. I do want to wrap up by reminding everybody that I still so Kabuki Kid says I think it was Hackmaster with the ducks. That I don't know, because I don't know really anything about Hackmaster outside of it started as a gag from Knights of the Dinner Table and then went from there. Anyway, I do want to point out 199 subscribers away from giving away a brand new copy of Next War Korea from GMT Games. And once again, I will ship this just about anywhere that I can ship things in the world. And of course, all you got to do is be a subscriber and comment on a video anytime from now until January 31st. If on January 31st I have 4,000 subscribers, I will pick a winner. Also, and I know this one's pretty far off, but what the hey, if I can hit 5,000 subscribers by January 31st, I will actually provide a complete core set of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, first edition, which is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Some people forget that. In very good or better condition. And once again, same thing. All you got to do is be a subscriber and comment on a video between now and January 31st. Once again, we have to hit these subscriber numbers for me to do these giveaways. So don't feel bad if we get to January 31st and I have not gotten to these subscriber numbers, that I'm not giving stuff away, right? That's kind of the point of the contest. Very strange. It's the only giveaways that it seems like people get excited for as far as my channel and the website is when I do D&D giveaways. Like when I do a giveaway for the alternate art cover of the latest book that comes out, which people could buy any place. And it's like, I'll pull in like 500 new subscribers. So kind of weird. All right. So let's see, before I wrap up. So Kabuki Kid says, yes, legendary duck tower and other tales. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. Thank you, Double K. So Flaming Heron says, go before I get buried in questions. You know, before I wrap up, which I haven't gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, thanks for watching. As Joe Robert pops in. Welcome, Joe. Just as I'm wrapping up the show. But as I was going to say, it's kind of funny because a lot of times I'll be like, oh, yeah, you know. And remember, the only time I ever use my teleprompter is when I'm reading the sell sheet information, the news releases from the various different companies. Otherwise, I do not have a teleprompter going. So when I'm doing my opening and close and stuff like that, I'm just trying to do off the top of my head and try to remember, you know, what I usually say. But it's kind of funny. I'll usually be like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I'll see like a question pop up. And then I'm like, oh, I feel bad that I'm not going to be answering this question because I'm wrapping up the show. So I do notice the questions. I do apologize if I don't answer them because I'm ending the show. Speaking of ending the show, by all means, if you like this video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you subscribe, ding that bell, because it will not only let you know when I upload videos like my upcoming Invid Invasion from Solar Flare Games. Of course, it'll remind you when I stream episodes of The Dispatch as well, right here on YouTube, Monday through Thursday nights. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Be sure to get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, no teleprompter. That's just off the top of my head. It's not that much I got to remember. So, Kabuki Kid says subscribers or COVID deaths today. No, it's 3.8 thousand subscribers. I think we are at 3,801 as of the last time I took a look. I think we have more COVID deaths than that in the United States today, unfortunately. Those of you who watch live, thank you very much. Always appreciate you taking time to hang out with me so I don't feel like a complete doofus just endlessly babbling into the camera. But I do know a lot of people out there don't have an opportunity to catch the stream live. I really love the fact that you watch after the fact, even if you're watching on Memorex. Thank you all very much. And of course, as I wrap up all of my videos during this never-ending pandemic, here's hoping all of you out there are being smart, staying safe. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, Friday, whatever day it happens to be. I will see you again on Monday. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, if you'd like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, by all means, click right here And if you'd like to check out one of our recent live streams, click right up top. And if you want to roll the dice and see what the algorithm for YouTube recommends, click right here. And of course, thank you once again for watching. And gang, please stay safe and wear a mask.